Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, we're going to check out the chaos and craziness that's on this planet at these times.
These are some of the more difficult ones to deliver. They really, really are. They kind of weigh a little bit heavy, but again, it's something that we signed up for. And to get the information out there so we can all be ready to deal with stuff when it comes.
There is a quote that many of you are probably very familiar with about even though we are in the world, we are not to be of it. In the sense that, to really change things, we're going to have to get outside the system as best as we can, because the system is chaos. The system is lawlessness. The system is disorder, disharmony. It's just all about us in so many different ways. I think too to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, where it talks about in these days that the darkness, the controllers, these shadowy beings that influence this world into going down that divisive and disruptive path, they're not going to be able to hold their form anymore. They're going to be revealed, and more people are seeing right through things, just right through things, and that's what we need. We need to really develop that discernment. Again, getting away from dogma and opening our eyes and recognizing there is an underlying unity, and we can have a manifested heaven on earth. We can change things. We just have to get the majority of people to wake up. We need to hit this critical mass in order to shift consciousness. And as long as we keep taking the route of divisiveness and allowing ourselves to be pitted against each other, then we stay stuck in the system.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important to explain what's going on, but then really a deeper meaning behind that so that people are more willing to wake up and really understand that this is just simply a chaotic system and we need to step back from it. But that's why we give it like a 1-2 punch here. We want people to understand what's going on.
Most definitely. So you see, U.S. dismisses Chinese claim that it drove away warship in the South China Sea. So China says that a U.S. warship was intruding in its territorial waters, and they drove it away from the area, and the U.S. is denying that. Well, I always check on Mondays, the U.S. Navy News Fleet and Marine Tracker, and this looked odd. So, one of the things that they're doing is, they're concealing stuff. They're trying to hide deployment, which is, probably because it is getting of a higher and higher risk as far as actual, confrontation going on. So this makes it look like there's virtually nothing out there in the Pacific. I mean, way less than typical. But when we look at the amount of ships deployed, they're showing 100, which is actually a little bit on the high side. But then again, what they show and what they give us is not necessarily going to be the truth.
Right.
As you see, we have the Ronald Reagan and the Iwo Jima in the range of the Middle East over there. And we have the Carl Vinson, the Abraham Lincoln, and the Eisenhower all basically around home port area in the Atlantic and Pacific. So it is a curious map, so to speak, and also curious as the war games in California and Florida linked to test massive kill web. Test pilots explain how the Air Force linked two major developmental exercises that included cutting-edge, long-range targeting and autonomous drones. And the drone thing I find very, very scary, especially because, death from above that you just don't see. And it takes me back to a lot of the stuff we've channeled and felt, gotten impressions of that happened a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, we're repeating ourselves again. And we've gotten this, that this has happened time and time again. We're going to do a video going deeper into the Tower of Babel incident because we've gotten more information on this. And here we go. You know, they get humanity playing these parts, facing off against each other. Think about that. Think about, you know, I know there's a lot of people out there that, well, more people believe in aliens all the time, extraterrestrials. The majority do. And it's going up a lot. And of course, there's life out there. If you look back to the oldest texts, it acknowledges it clearly. And there's just evidence all over the globe. There's so much evidence, you know, it would take hundreds of thousands of hours to cover. And many have covered it. And we've done this time and time again. Think about this, though. If there are non human entities controlling humans that are, you know, being basically enslaved in a system of just violent, chaotic circles, these repetitive, chaotic wars that come down, they get us to basically police ourselves and also get us to basically destroy ourselves. And here we go again. You know, we could see the buildup that's going on. And they do it through things like pride, you know, and you see people making comments on Twitter, you know, when we had the 4th of July, of course, you get all the tweets. The United States is the greatest country in the world. We're so proud. Well, the greatest at what exactly? Well, it's not healthcare. It's definitely not at, you know, creating peace in the world. See, this is all just appealing to ego. And, you know, this, it really has to be stated. Because, yeah, sure, the US could be the greatest country in the world at certain things, but it's not just, you know, everything, that's for sure. And in so many ways, as we've shown, I mean, this is the country they've used to be the world's policeman and military. And when we see these war games and stuff, we know what's coming. Yeah, we know that an EMP maybe looking like a CME, but either way, you know, the grid's going to be coming down. We've been warned by the government themselves. Here you see priming for great power conflict. U.S. Army to field mid-range missile battery soon. Now that a lot of the treaties have been thrown away, everything kind of goes, and there's scrambling going. And when we look at the timelines for deploying all these things, kind of gives you the impression that, you know, the powers that be are on a timeline of manufacturing what Albert Pike said back in 1871 about that, you know, 3 WWs. So what do you got there? She's nodding in agreement. Mm-hmm. But I was wondering if she had anything she wanted to add to that.
Not at the moment.
Okay, so the U.S. Army is hard at work on its newest medium-range missile battery, plans to field the first units by September 2023. And this unit would be the first ever mobile medium-range missile battery of the U.S. Army. 3 more are going to follow. And it's starting with 2022. The Army is going to assemble the MRC launcher payload deployment system and first battery operations centers for the first battery, and then basically going to be following. This buildup is on both sides, on all sides. When we look at the world right now, it's a mess, and it's more of a mess than I think it's been since WW2. Of course, we've had nonstop warfare, as you know, the U.S. has been involved in war over 90% of the years that it's been in existence. The Afghan army and the Taliban ramp up the fight as Turkey primes to join in. Yes, Turkey is going to get involved there as well, and Iran is involved over there too. It's just very chaotic out there, and really the world is being primed for another WW. This is in their plans. How do we stop it? Wake up as many as possible and get people to stop taking part of it. So that might mean, waking up your kids that are thinking about joining the service, quote unquote. Again, these wars are not really nationalistic. These wars are all about profits and control, and also about controlling ultimately the population in more ways than one. And when we look at Turkey, they've had recent operations in Libya, Nagorno-Karabakh, and also in Syria and Iraq as well. And you look at, I feel so horrible for all the poor suffering people in these countries like Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Libya. Just nonstop warfare, nonstop chaos. Iran sent military reinforcements to secure border crossing captured by the Taliban. The world is so entangled in this. Former Canadian embassy worker arrested in Haiti assassination, worked for a shadowy security firm. Basically, these are just swords for hire, and that's what we have out there because we have these. Um, Basically, they're just mercenary groups. That's all they are. They're just mercenary groups. And when we look to the Haiti situation, I know, and we're very aware of the fact that there's a lot more going on there than that would meet the eye on a superficial level, as Haiti arrests suspected mastermind in the president's killing. And he was in Florida. He was a Haitian man living in Florida. And this is really just crazy to look at what has gone on here. So this Haitian man living in Florida, well, they're accusing him of hiring mercenaries to remove and replace the president. He was shot dead early on Wednesday in Port-au-Prince in his home, and they say he was tortured too. National Police Chief Leon Charles told a news conference on Sunday that the arrested man, 63-year-old Christian Emmanuel Sanon, flew to Haiti accompanied by hired security guards on a private jet in early June and wanted to take over as president. He allegedly hired Colombian mercenaries through a private Venezuelan security firm based in Florida. The doctor is, and he's a doctor, the third U.S. resident of Haitian origin and 21st person overall to be detained as a suspect. What's interesting too, they found hats emblazoned with the logo of U.S. DEA administration. Uh, just it's just very, very curious to say the least. But in these times, there's so much going on behind the scenes. China owns us. Pretty simple statement there, how the Chinese are buying up America. Did you know that 97% of antibiotics come from China? 97%. Well, thankfully there's some silver here, and we could do colloidal and nano silver. But yeah, it's just wild. And then when we look at the farmland, China owns 191,000 acres worth 1.9 billion as of 2019. So it's higher than that now. 30 million acres of American farmland is owned by foreign investors, and that doesn't include what's owned by Gil Bates.
Wow.
Yeah, it's again, it's all about controlling resources, consolidation of resources. And down in South Africa, it's absolute chaos. And the question that they have up there is, could hunger be the cause of looting? Well, yeah, hunger can make people do desperate things. Every single store in Jabulani Mall near Johannesburg has been looted. There's all sorts of violence going on down there, and this is something that's being, unfortunately, in the opinion of many that are watching all this transpire, this all too perfect storm, it's like it's being cultivated, and here you have armed citizens opening fire on rioters. And it makes me think of that Nostradamus prophecy where he's talking to his son, who he named Caesar, by the way, and telling him about these times and the fact that there's going to be a global revolution of sorts, and there's going to be countries experiencing civil wars, revolutions. I mean, how do you word this when it's just simply chaos? Chaos is, I guess, the closest thing we could say to.
It is. It
How do you word
is.
it?
And you look at these situations and you think, gosh, this is a good thing to point out. If these folks could just simply work together, I'm sure their differences are wide and they're huge, but if they could sit down, find their common interests and start working together, that's, I think, the lesson learned. We got to pull out the lessons from all of these.
Well, what we have too is we have people, like when we take the Americas, for instance, the indigenous people that were here, they all got rounded up and pushed in, herded into kennels, in the particular areas while the invaders took everything. Think about South Africa, for instance, apartheid, and again, colonialism. This is part of everything that has been going on this planet in this power structure for thousands of years. This is thousands of years. When we look at our ancient history, it's just nonstop warfare. So is it just something that's in the hearts of men? Or is there some sort of control here that is manufacturing this, keeping it constantly in this divisiveness? Cuba's president blames Washington for protests because Cuba's having a lot of protests because, again, there's a lot of people lacking food. There's all sorts of shortages going on. There's social unrest going on. And again, that there's been the blockade and the all sorts of sanctions that have gone on there. And again, it's the average people that suffer. And Mexico is calling for an end to the U.S. blockade on Cuba. This is where we need to recognize that the only way out is getting out of this chaos. Don't allow yourself to be pulled into the conflict. So, you'll see people, like if you go on, say, a forum like Godlike, which is a conspiracy forum, and people are saying good for those people because they're shooting at the rioters. And again, this is part of that divide and conquer. People are starving, and meanwhile we have people like Bezos and Musk and all these other Gil Bates people, that are billionaires hoarding all sorts of resources. And we've been sold things like the American dream. You too can succeed. What it is selling you the system.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can succeed, but is it at the expense of others?
Right. And expensive losing yourself too, because then if you do buy into the system, you have these huge mortgages, these huge payments to come up with, and then you end up spending 16 to 20 hours at work trying to make sure you have enough money. So how much do you really enjoy your home and the new things that you do purchase just to keep up with the Joneses?
Exactly. It's that mouse on the wheel going nowhere. Because we don't take our wealth with us when we leave this
Nope.
world. We take our learned experiences and the energies that we carry. That's the only thing that we're going to take with us. We're certainly not taking the 5,000 square foot home.
No.
Coffee prices soar after bad harvests and insatiable demand. Global consumption is set to exceed production this year. Brazil was hit with the worst drought-driven drop in output in almost 20 years. But I got to be honest too, and maybe it's the repackaging, as we've talked about, that they're making the packages smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
That very well could be, because I was surprised at the deals that were out there. As last time out, I got 5 bags of organic coffee. Was it $10? I mean, I was blown away. It was so cheap, it boggled my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And coffee is one of the things that you want to buy organic for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the heaviest pesticide-laden, cancer-causing crops that if you are not drinking organic coffee, please start, most definitely. And from what I've seen now, the prices are getting more equal with organic and non-organic. Bootleg fire in Oregon uncontrollably doubles in size. This is the latest figures I saw were 160,000 acres, that's showing 150,000 here. That's huge, and it's zero contained. Zero. As we know, we're going to be facing a lot of wildfires with this record drought that is ongoing right now. And again, we've talked about the obvious weather control and manipulation that we have. And if, great points that you guys have put out there, like if we can pipeline in things like gas, oil, why couldn't we do the same with water?
Mm-hmm.
It makes absolutely no sense. Again, it's all about greed, power, and control.
Yes.
And we have another red tide left 15 tons of dead fish on Tampa Bay's shoreline. And the experts are saying there's more to come. And yeah, I've experienced this firsthand. I've walked on beaches that looked like this, and it was just so disheartening to see and so horrible. And again, this is another sign of the imbalance of the world and the system that we have.
And my question is that, there's a lot of people there in Florida. I really don't understand. I would personally spend the time to really throw a fit if I saw that so close to my home.
Well, many do, and I've seen groups gather, like down in Nokomis and Venice. There would be drum circles, and then also there would be protests about everything that's going on. There was protest about the chemicals that the corporations, are just pouring into Lake Okeechobee, causing more chaos and destruction and just poisoning the environment. As you see this island of dead fish rotting off of St. Pete's Pier, it's just a pure atrocity, and this is the type of thing that we do have to speak up about, and not let ourselves get pulled into these wars, and not let ourselves get convinced to take up arms against each other and to pick sides. They want you to pick a side. They ultimately don't care which side you pick, because as long as we're fighting amongst ourselves, we're pushing their agenda forward.
Yes, we are.
The U.S. experienced $8 billion disasters in just the first 6 months of 2021. This is huge. And just looking at some of the headlines out of the Watchers, you see flash floods. 2 months worth of rain hits England, eastern England, in just 2 hours. Can we say artificial flavoring?
Mm-hmm.
I know there's natural things going on, but most definitely there's a lot of artificial flavoring involved. Highest weather warning issued for southwest Japan's Hunan City. Heavy rain predicted for the mainland. And then we also had an EF2 tornado that hits Dexter, leaving at least 150 homes damaged in Missouri. Interestingly enough, though, we've actually had less than average as far as the bigger tornadoes this year. And this would have been ominous to be under, as we have been directly under supercells ourselves, and turning into what turned into tornadoes directly overhead. Nasty rotating supercell thunderstorm. This is Des Moines, Iowa. Looks like a mothership. Well,
maybe.
yeah.
Hmm.
Things that make you say, there's video here where you can see it rotating.
Wow.
Pretty impressive, pretty reminiscent of Independence Day. And we have this soldier, British soldier, that his parachute failed, and he went 15,000 feet out of a plane, landed on a roof, and somehow survived. Now, it didn't deploy fully, so it must have slowed him down enough to make it, but it's crazy because it went right through the roof
Oh, wow.
and somehow survived. And he put a big hole in that roof.
Oops.
And amazingly, he made it fine. He's going to be okay. And talk about
Wow.
having a guardian angel.
Absolutely a strong one, too.
Most definitely. So, guys, in these times, we have to most definitely maintain our health and our sanity. And everybody that we're working with, it seems like the majority of people have very, very low energy, been sleeping a ton, irritable. And we could see why, because when we go through the news, it feels like we're up against this massive tidal wave. And what are we going to do?
Well, that's where we talk about our understanding of energy, where we have come to find an understanding that our energy does matter. It's not that we're just sitting home and we can't do anything. Yes, we can do stuff. We can send energies out for a better outcome. And all of us have that energetic potential. So, no, it's not like we're sitting here where we can't do anything. We've been taught that since we were very, very small.
Yeah, and again, we are co-creators here. It's not, and there are those that will look at different prophecies and say there's nothing we can do, but we can. Yeah, and also we're here to change this paradigm and to shift it. Does it look like we're in challenging times? Oh yeah, most definitely. But at the same time, we are wakening up so many people across the globe, and it's really it's kind of a race against time in order to wake up as many as possible so we can change this paradigm. And as long as we're allowing them to divide us by religion, politics, and also the big lobbies, the big lobbies again play both sides all the time. They'll donate to the Republicans, they'll donate to the Democrats, they'll cover their bases and make sure that their will is done, not our will. So we have to recognize the system is absolutely broken, and it can't really be repaired. It's going to have to be replaced. It's not going to be a Band-Aid, when you have an entire limb that has been amputated.
Yep.
So ultimately that is going to come about, and we will get back in harmony with the earth, the planet itself, all of nature, because we have been so ostracized and cut off from the planet itself, from recognizing that the planet is a conscious living being. And as we saw with the indigenous people of the Americas that typically thought, again, Father Sky, Mother Earth, and they were very, very much in tune. They listened. They could, the U.S. Army recruited so many natives to be their scouts because their senses were heightened. They were able to pick up on things that the Westerners, quote unquote, the Europeans, quote unquote, couldn't pick up on typically. It was very, very interesting too that when they would make them cut their hair, they'd lose a lot of their ability, as our hair is a receptor as well. And hence, I haven't had a haircut in like 8 years now. So, because again, there's a lot of wisdom in the ancient ways, and one of the biggest nuggets of wisdom is maintaining that connection to nature itself, and unplugging, as we had said, unplugging your routers and unplugging yourself maybe from the news, because we feel that too. I mean, I told Cindy, I said, I don't even really want to do this video. I'd rather talk about some other stuff. But I know people want to know what's going on, and we want to let you guys know what's going on too. But we also want to give you guys hope, because ultimately we are going to get out of this system, and this is going to be healed. The planet will be healed, and humanity and every living being on the planet will be healed at some point in time. It may look different for each of us as individuals. But we are eternal. Our consciousness is eternal. So this is just a brief, you can look at like a amazing CGI event that we are in the middle of right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can look at it like that. We do want to bring you the information, but like Mike said, we want to bring it to you with hope so that you guys understand that you are making a difference. You are making a change. You know, I think we mentioned something earlier about, you know, what constitutes a light worker. And I think it'd be fun to touch on that on another video because so many of you, if you're listening to this video, you are, but we can go into more detail on that too.
Most definitely. So guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Please do check out Medicinal Foods. They have some really powerful, healthy things for you, including some, things that might look like, how could they be healthy? Because they're just too damn yummy, like some of these
Yeah, like
bars.
those chocolate bars Mike's going to get me for my birthday.
Yes. As always, guys, stay prepared out there. God bless. Namaste.
Namaste.